Page 130, the temporary human. So just think about what temporary human means. Think about where we are in the story, where we left off. Ivan is in a crate. We learned about his sister, and we can suspect that he's probably heading off to the life that we know now. So I wonder what temporary, great word to look up, human means. We know what a human is. What does it mean to be a temporary human, and who are we talking about? I think that's probably easy to guess, but let's find out. Page 130. It was Mac who pried open that crate, Mac who bought me, and Mac who raised me like a human baby. Temporary human. I wore diapers, I drank from a bottle, I slept in human beds, sat in human chairs, listened while human words swarmed around me like angry bees. Simile, what two things are being compared? Mac had a wife back then. Helen was quick to laugh, but quick to anger too, especially when I broke something, which was often. Here is what I broke while I lived with Mac and Helen. 1 crib, 46 glasses, 7 lamps, 1 couch, 3 shower curtains, 3 shower curtain rods, 1 blender, 1 TV, 1 radio, 3 toes, my own. I broke the blender when I squeezed 2 tubes of toothpaste and a bottle of glue into it. I broke my toes attempting to swing from a lamp fixture on the ceiling. I broke 46 glasses. Well, it turns out there are many ways to break a glass. Every weekend, Mac and Helen took me in their convertible to a fast food restaurant, where they ordered me French fries and a strawberry shake. Mac loved to see the expression on the cashier's face when he drove up and said, "Could I have some extra ketchup for my kid?" I went to baseball games, to the grocery store, to a movie theater, even to the circus. They didn't have a gorilla. Some irony there. And I'm not going to define irony for you. You can look it up. But we are going to talk about irony a lot this year. And that is irony. Ivan went to a circus. I rode a little motorbike and blew out candles on a birthday cake. My life as a human was a glamorous one, although my parents' traditional sorts would not have approved. (133) Hunger. In my new life as a human, I was well tended. Before I keep going with this, just remember, Ivan is telling a story, and he's telling that story to Ruby. And remember, this is something that he'd never wanted to remember, couldn't remember, but now for Ruby, he is. In my new life as a human, I was well tended. I ate lettuce leaves with Thousand Island dressing and caramel apples and popcorn with butter. My belly ballooned. But hunger, like food, comes in many shapes and colors. At night, lying alone in my poop pajamas, I felt hungry for the skilled touch of a grooming friend, for the cheerful grunts of a play fight, for the easy safety of my nearby troop, foraging through shadows. Remember what happened to Tag, I told myself. Don't think about the jungle. So you can see here that Ivan is remembering his life and missing it. But he kept thinking about his sister, Tag, and what happened to her, and decided, I'm not going to remember that. It's too, feeling. Still, sometimes I lay awake, wishing for the warmth of another just like me, asleep in a night nest of tender prayer plant leaves. What great description. I like having sips of soda poured into my mouth like a bubbling waterfall. Simile. what two things are being compared. But every now and then I longed to search for a tender stalk of arrowroot, to feel the tease of a mango just out of reach. Page 135, still life. One day, Helen came home with something large and flat wrapped in brown paper. "Look at what I bought today," she said excitedly as she tore off the paper. "A painting to go over the living room couch." Fruit in a bowl," Max said with a shrug. "Big deal." "This is fine art. It's called the still life," Helen explained, "and I think it's lovely." I dashed over to examine the painting, marveling at the colors and shapes. "See," said Mac's wife, "Ivan likes it." "Ivan likes to roll up poop and throw it at squirrels," Max said. I couldn't take my eyes off the apples and bananas and grapes in the pictures. They looked so real, so inviting, so edible. I reached out to touch a grape, and Helen slapped my hand. "Bad boy, Ivan, don't touch." She jerked her thumb at Mac. "Honey, go get a hammer and a nail, would you?" While Mac and Helen were busy in the living room, I wandered into the kitchen. A cake covered in thick chocolate frosting sat on the counter. I think we can probably make a prediction. I like cake. Love it, in fact. But it wasn't eating I was thinking about. It was painting. Where did Ivan like to paint when he was little? What was that canvas, and what did he use? The canvas was his mother's back. The frosting peaked and dipped like waves on a tiny pond. It looked rich and gooey, dark and smooth. It looked like mud. I scooped up a handful of frosting. I scooped up another. I headed to the refrigerator door. It was perfect, an empty, white, waiting canvas. The frosting wasn't as easy to work with as jungle mud. It was stickier and, of course, more tempting to eat. But I kept at it. I scraped off every last bit of that frosting. I may have eaten a little cake, too. I don't remember what I was trying to paint. A banana, most likely. I suppose I knew I was going to get in trouble, but at that moment, I just didn't care. I wanted to make something, anything the way I used to. I wanted to be an artist again. Page 138, new chapter, punishment. I soon learned that humans can screech even louder than monkeys. After that, I was never allowed in the kitchen. Page 139, babies. Back in those days, the Big Top Mall was smaller. It had a pony ride, a wooden train that bustled around the parking lot, a few bedraggled parrots, and a surly spider monkey. But when Mac brought me, a baby gorilla dressed in a crisp tuxedo, to the mall, everything had changed. People came from far and wide to have their pictures taken with me. They brought me blocks and a toy guitar. They held me in their laps. Once, I even held a baby in mine. She was small and slippery. Bubbles flowed from her lips. She squeezed my fingers. Her rear was puffy with padding. Her legs bowed like bent twigs. Simile, what's being compared? I made a face. She made a face. I grunted. She grunted. I was so afraid she would fall that I squeezed her tightly, and her mother yanked her away. I wonder if my mother ever worried about dropping us. We always held on, but that's easier to do when your mother is furry. Human babies are an ugly lot, but their eyes are like our babies' eyes. Too big for their faces and for the world. Eyes too big for the world. We'll have to talk about what that means. You can jot it down on your sticky note if you're using a sticky note. What do you think that means? Your eyes are too big for the world. And it seems like he might be comparing those babies to himself when he was a baby. And he's still not that old, remember. 141. Beds. One day, after many weeks of loud talking, Helen packed a bag and slammed the front door and never came back. I don't know why. I never know the why of humans. That night, I slept with Mac in his bed. My old nests were woven of leaves and sticks and shaped like his bathtub. Cool, green cocoons. Mac's bed, like mine, was flat, hot, without sticks or stars. Still, he made a sleeping sound like the rumble my father used to make when all was well, a sound from deep inside his belly. Page 142, My Place. Mac grew sullen. What does that mean, sullen? I grew bigger. I became what I was meant to be, too large for chairs, too strong for hugs, too big for human life. I tried to stay calm, to move with dignity. I did my best to eat daintily, but human ways are hard to learn, especially when you're not human. When I saw my new domain, I was thrilled, and who wouldn't have been? I had no furniture to break, no glasses to smash, no toilets to drop Mac's keys into. I even had a tire swing. I was relieved to have my own place. Somehow, I didn't realize I'd be here quite so long. Now I drink Pepsi, eat old apples, watch reruns on TV. But many days I forget what I am supposed to be. Am I a human? Am I a gorilla? Humans have so many words, more than they truly need. Still, they have no name for what I am. So, Mac became a gorilla and moved to where he lives now and is confused because he's lived like a human, but unfortunately it isn't one. So now he's sort of like a human and sort of like a gorilla. So when he says, I don't have a word for what I am, so we go back to that phrase, temporary human. He lived like a human. Now he's living like a gorilla in a cage, and he used to live outside like a gorilla's supposed to. So he doesn't know who he is anymore. Sad, really. All right, we're going to stop there. We'll move on to page 144 next time. Good job. Make sure you get those sticky notes to me. Free money, if they're right.